Hey everyone out there on Facebook, welcome. If you're watching on replay, feel free to fast forward as we will say hello at the beginning. If not, stick around as we get rolling. Tonight we're doing the skinny on COVID antibody testing. What's it about? Should you do it? Should you do not do it? What's good? What's bad? What's otherwise out there? Give you guys, clear out the clutter, dispel some myths, all that kind of stuff. So as you guys pop on here live, what's up? See Alicia, Dave, popping on here. Say hello. If you've first time watching me, drop a number 1 in the comments below. Let me know where you're quarantined from. If you've seen me before, you come back for more, drop that number 2 in the comments below. We'll get going from there. What's up, Mary Beth? What's up, Nikki? Mary Beth, say hi to Dave for me. And give the kids, I hope everyone's well. And what's up, Nikki? Tell Jay I said hi. So, just so you know, guys, we are doing antibody testing here. We started today. We'll be doing it again every couple days in the office. So if you're interested in more of that, let me know, and I'll talk about what this is all about. What's up, John? So, guys, again, if you've never seen me before, drop number 1 in the comments below. If you've seen me before, you've come back for more, drop that 2. What's up, Candace? What's up, Hillary? Again, we're going to talk all things antibody testing tonight. Okay. So those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Jason Pape, chiropractic extraordinaire, bringing you education, information, motivation, inspiration on the regular. It's Wednesday night. It is science night. It is education information day. And as we've been doing a lot for the last 8-9 weeks, we've been talking a lot about this coronavirus. And the big thing on a lot of people's minds is the antibody testing. What is it? Why should I do it? Not do it? Are they collecting my data? Are they, is it valid? Is it false negatives, false positives? What does this information mean? Blah, 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 blah. And we're going to cover it all. Okay? And as always, guys, I feel free to spread the love. If you know someone else who might benefit from this, please put this on your page, in a private message, in a group, in a post, whatever. Have a watch party, whatever it may be. It's up in Oregon, Martha. Okay, guys. So let's talk about immunity and antibodies a little bit. So when you get exposed and infected by something, our body mounts an immune response, all right? And part of that immune response is things called immunoglobulins, all right? And there's different types of immunoglobulins, and different ones are used for different things. All right, so you have the Igs, your immunoglobulins, okay? I'm gonna get a little sciencey on y'all here. Okay, so you have your immunoglobulins. You got your IgA, your IgE, your IgG, your IgM, and there's even one called IgD, which no one really knows much about. Okay, so IgA is it's a secretory thing. Most of the time you find it in linings of your gut as well as your airways. It's probably the most prevalent one in the body, but it's not really what we're going to talk about today. All right, IgE you see a lot of times mostly when people have allergic reaction. Again, can be seen for other things, but that's a big one. IgG and IgM are what we're going to talk about. So basically, when you talk about being infected, IgM is more of an acute or early part of an infection. IgG comes on a little bit later on in the infection and is more longer lasting. All right, and that, again, IgG more so than anything is going to confer your lifelong or permanent immunity, which we'll talk about. So when we do antibody testing for any kind of disease, most of the time, unless you just got infected, we're looking for IgG, I apologize. So that's what we're looking for here, all right? When it comes to this disease, there's a few different ways that people are testing. So here's the thing, it's a very new disease, SARS-CoV-2, all right, COVID-19. There are many different coronaviruses. So let's dispel some myths right now. Because you're seeing a lot of stuff out there, this coronavirus, there are people had patents on it from the early 2000s and this and that. Well, yeah, they might be, because there are tons of coronaviruses. There are plenty of human colds that are coronaviruses. If you look at a can of Lysol on the back, it'll list all the things it kills, including human coronavirus. Okay? That doesn't mean there's not a conspiracy, but it doesn't mean it's a conspiracy that Lysol knew about it years ago. No. There's plenty of coronaviruses and plenty of common colds that are caused by different coronavirus strains. There's different classes of them, and they all have they're mostly respiratory, okay? And that's that. So, understand that when we talk about coronavirus, in the context in the world we're talking about now, we're talking about specifically SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. This specific type of coronavirus. Okay? Important thing to understand. Okay, so there's lots of them. And anytime your body is ever exposed to something naturally, meaning your natural immune system kicks in, you will fight it off eventually and get well, and your body will now have created what's called a permanent immunity, a lifelong immunity. That is a natural acquired immunity. Okay? That's how your body does things. That's why if you got the chicken pox when you were a kid, if you're under the age of 30, you probably don't know what that is anymore, but when I was a kid, you get chicken pox. And then you don't get chicken pox again. Okay? Because your body has learned how to fight it off and has created a lifelong immunity. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole of vaccines and stuff like that for that kind of stuff right now, but again, very rarely did anyone ever get chicken pox a second time. If they did, it's because they didn't mount a proper immune response the first time. Okay? That's how it is with the cold, that's how it is with flu, that's how it is with all these other diseases. Had you gotten the measles, had you gotten the mumps, you would be conferred a lifelong immunity. All right? And it's these IgG and IgM antibodies that confer a lot of that, mostly IgG4. Okay, anyway, y'all picking up what I'm putting down. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, I need you to drop a number 3 in the comments below. I just made 2 points you got to understand. All right? 1, okay? There are many coronaviruses that have been around for a long time with many different subclasses and different types. A lot of them cause the common cold. This is just a new strain, a novel coronavirus. No one calls it that anymore, right? All right? That's what we're talking about. And number 2, when you naturally get a disease, if your body mounts a proper immune response, you should be conferred a lifelong immunity. That's the basic gist. What's up, Matt Jogan? What's up, Gianna? All right. So I'm getting some 3s. You guys are getting it. Okay, hit some like or love button as we're going. And as always, guys, please feel free to spread the love. Have a watch party, invite someone to watch, whoever it may be. Okay. Got that. So when we're testing for a disease, a lot of times we're testing for IgG to see, have we had the disease and have we mounted a response? Okay, what's up, Jeremy? IgM is a very short-lived thing. Comes on early in an infection, doesn't last long, and it's not something you're not going to get exposed to, get chickenpox, and then a year later check for IgM. It's just not how it works. Now, if you want to go down the Epstein-Barr cytomegalovirus rabbit hole, you're going to check for both of those to see if it's an active or inactivated, because those things kind of come back and forth a little bit. That's not this disease either. Again, we are under the impression it's a new disease. Okay, that this is the kind of thing, once your body mounts a response and fights it off, it is gone. And now you will have been conferred a permanent immunity. That is what's supposed to happen. That is how an immune system works. Okay? That's how our immune system is made to work. Okay, so the cold you get today is not the same cold you get the next time. It's a different virus. Okay? If you get the flu this year, why do they try to sell you on next year's flu shot? Because it's a different strain. It's a new flu. The flu you had, you'll never get again because you have a permanent immunity as long as you got it. If you get the flu shot, don't even talk about that. Okay. So, there's a lot of talk right now that we're not sure if you get this virus, if you can't get it again. Why not? Why not? This virus is like any other virus that our body gets exposed to. All right? Like every other coronaviruses. If you should get it, you should be able to get over it and have a permanent immunity. Okay? Yes, Gianna, I'm saying that if you get COVID-19, there's nothing to suggest that you will get it again. Okay? Nothing to suggest you should be able to get it again because your body has mounted an immune response. Now, they're trying to talk about mutated strains. They're trying to talk about things like that. There's no real proof of any mutated strains. It's supposition. They're kind of, you see it kind of creeping at the edge until I see valid proof that there are different strains, that the one we had here was the more virulent strain than the last 2 months than we had originally. Show me the proof. There's really no data. There's narratives being sold to you now that are being sold to you for the last 2 or 3 weeks or more for a reason, which we'll go into shortly. Okay, so hope this is making sense, guys. Now, there's always a possibility that this thing mutates and mutates such a way that it's so different than this year's strain that next year your body wouldn't be able to fight it off if it becomes like a flu type thing. There's no evidence to suggest that's going to happen. There's no evidence to suggest when you look at SARS-CoV-1, the first SARS-CoV, that this is 79% analogous to that ever happened. Because we didn't hear about big SARS outbreaks again after 2003. All right? We don't see that with MERS necessarily. We're not seeing that in any of these more virulent strains of coronavirus. Why would we expect this one specifically to do that? I don't know. Again, can I say 100% definitively that it will never happen? No, I can't. But it's unlikely. And it's not really presenting that way. So here's the deal, guys. Is this making sense? So if any of you out there have had this disease, you were diagnosed with it, okay, you should be someone that now is immune. But the problem is not everyone was tested. A lot of people were given a diagnosis of the disease based on symptoms. A lot of people were tested and told they were negative. We'll talk about why that may not be real. A lot of people had a disease earlier this year, the end of last year, that was very similar to this disease and don't know that that's not what they had necessarily. So how do we figure this out? Well, okay, let's talk about a couple of things. So testing. The original test they've been doing, where they stick the swab up your nose, all right, that's the standard of care for diagnosing COVID. All right, it's only about 70% effective. And that's based on user technique. So what that means is, if you do it right, you can find a positive, or you can get a valid positive or negative result. But you don't necessarily know if the user's technique is good. And then throw into that a weird environment to do it. So I work with a nurse practitioner here that's been probably seen over 1,000 patients in his own office and had really great success. He's got really great technique, so he's pretty assured his validity. But but that's in an office setting, right? Many people were tested in a drive-up situation in front of a clinic where people are walking in, sticking their thing up your nose in your car and walking away. Technique may have been great sitting in a chair, but when you're leaning into someone's car covered in a hazmat suit, doing all these kinds of things, is your technique just as good? I don't know. So I'm telling you, it's not unlikely that there were a lot of false negatives, especially when you're telling me about 70% of the time you're getting a valid test. That means there's a 30% false negative or 30% chance of a false negative with the swab. Okay? There's definitely people that have had, I tested positive on April 20th, gave blood yesterday, checked for antibodies, was negative for any antibodies. So, Shonda, I'd be curious where you got that checked. All right? So, and we're going to talk about some different IgGs. So here's the thing. Again, how were we checked? Then there was reports that a lot of these swabs were contaminated. Like, we don't even know if the swabs we got were truly contaminated or not. So that blood test we'll talk about with Jeff in a minute. So again, did we get false positives? So again, the original testing may or may not have been valid. All right? So then the question is, the blood test is supposed to be more valid. Okay, now again, it's a newer test. Figuring some stuff out. There's not a lot of time to kind of figure this stuff out, but we'll go over that in a minute. So here's why someone may want to get an antibody test right now, and then we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. I was sick if you were someone who got sick in like December or January with a nasty cold, with pneumonia, blah, 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 and you don't know, you're like, hey, maybe I had it then. You're someone who might want to get an antibody test. If you showed up negative on a swab, but you had symptoms that made you think you had corona and they're telling you didn't, you may want to get an antibody test. If you got told you had corona, but you're still not 100% sure that's what you had, you may go on to get an antibody test. All right? If you're someone who had it, or not sure if you had it, but you want to be able to donate plasma to help those who've been sick, all right? That's another way to help people, different type of immunity you're giving them. That's something else you could get tested for. Those are reasons why someone may want to get tested. On the flip side, as of right now, they're opening some states up in certain ways that seem to not be looking for testing, but there's been talk over the last couple months that there's a possibility that return to work, return to certain normalcy may require some kind of testing to see if you had active antibodies. I don't like it, all right? And we'll talk about why I don't like it again when we get into the other reasons about these narratives we talked about, but it's also another reason why you may want to get checked. Plus, too, if you know you have the antibodies, now you don't have to worry about you're going to necessarily get infected. It may drop people's fear down. It also may make you more comfortable when you go out there that you're not actively, hopefully, shedding virus, depending on how long your symptoms abated to when you get the test done. Okay. Okay, Shonda, definitely hit me up on the side. I want to talk to you about that more. Okay. And again, how was the test done? Was it done by a finger prick or by blood draw? Okay. So, is this all making sense so far, guys? If this is making sense about permanent immunity, about how, what reasons people might want to get an antibody test, let me know. Drop number 4 in the comments below. Let me know you're all with me. Okay? Now, what we're seeing is there's ways to test. All right? There are finger prick tests and there are blood draw tests. All right? We'll talk about the finger prick first. Tons and tons of companies came out with finger prick tests. All right? There are 15-minute lateral flow serology type tests, meaning they prick your finger, they put a couple reagents in, we put it on this little thing, all right? And it looks like a pregnancy test almost. It gives you positive or negative, and it has an IgG, an IgM band, and things like that. So, IgM means it's very early in infection. IgG would mean that it's mid to later, anywhere from 7 to 10 days on. All right? So, that's what they're using. Now, that sounds all great and good. I just get a prick by finger and I put it in they do a couple things and I have an answer in 15 minutes? Yes. It's wonderful. It's great. Here's the problem. A lot of those companies, when they came out there, were not reliable. They rushed these things to market. For a lot of them came out of China, by the way, and are still coming from China. So it's about, it's hard to find reputable companies that may get false negatives and or positives because they're just not well made and they're not well done. All right? Even so, there's been some companies that have considered that when you start seeing doctors that are using them, that are seeing some validity to them, are saying, well, these are the ones we're seeing that seem to be better. This company seems to be decent, maybe not this one. There's still a false positive issue. And what that means is they may be somewhat highly sensitive. They give you a positive sign that you got COVID, but they're not highly specific. Meaning that if you find a company that makes a valid test, that's been really vetted, and it's not like, well, some of the time we get false negatives. When it gets test positive, the problem is that there's about 5 or 6 other strains of types of coronaviruses, like I mentioned before, those common cold ones, all right, that could give you a false positive. So even when I was looking into them, and the person I was looking to get them from, and the place that they're getting distributed from, over the last 3 weeks, they've changed who they were going to use about 4 times because they were trying to find the right ones. And they finally settled on 2, one made in the U.S., one made in China, that seem to be the most reliable. Again, seem to be. A lot of times we don't know reliability and start using them. All right? So when we talk about false positives, false negatives, Candace, I think it was Candace who was asking me before, they got tested at her hospital. Let me just scroll back. Shonda, sorry. I'd be curious if you did a finger prick or a blood draw. Let me know. Drop in the comments if you'd like. So, finger prick. So you may get a false negative, and if you're getting, let's say you get a reputable company, false positive would mean that, yes, you may have had COVID, but if you have one of these other strains, you might show positive instead of having COVID. So you think you have the immunity when you didn't. So when I talked to this rep, it looked like about 90 to 97% of the time, it's specific for COVID-19. To me, that's not good enough. 3 to 10% of the time, it's specific for something else, another strain, a more common cold. 3% I could deal with. 10% to me is too big a variable. So that's why I've steered away from the finger prick. I may still use some here and there for little kids, who don't want a blood draw, or someone who's just very averse to needles or does not do well and stuff like that. So we have some way to test. But in general, that is not, as long as I would make sure someone understood that that's the percentage of possibilities of false positives. So relatively highly sensitive, but not very highly specific. For me, that's an issue, right? So I'm not personally in my office going to use finger prick tests unless it was there was no other way to do it. Okay? Does that make sense? And Shonda, I don't know if you're still on there, but please let me know how they tested you. Because I will tell you that the people I was dealing with, they were saving certain brands specifically just for hospitals, big systems around here. Okay, so to me, that, again, it talks about finger pricks going into these places. So it's possible a false negative because these are things that we don't know how reliable they are yet. They're literally brand new and hundreds of companies are running to market with it. Okay, so what we found is that blood draw is probably a more effective way to do it, because when the labs are telling me is that when you do the blood draw and they do it in the lab, it's about a 48-hour turnaround, that the results are specific just to COVID-19. Now, again, I will never say anything's 100%. Even if you tell me it's 100%, that is going to tell you yes or no for COVID-19. But it's a very high rate of specificity. You're not going to get this overreaction because of something, another strain of virus, of coronavirus. Okay, so for me, that's why I decided to do the blood draw in the office. Now, I don't do either personally. We have a nurse practitioner who comes in and does that for us. Okay, because in the state of New York, I can't break the skin. There are not many places where chiropractors can break the skin. All right, and these are not finger prick tests you can do at home, and I would be very suspect of those when they first come out. So we're using reputable labs, doing proper testing, looking for this strain. Now, again, something could come out in the next few weeks saying, hey, we're finding these are not so effective. So we don't know. But again, this is a very new thing. But for the knowledge we have now, this seems to be the best, most accurate possible way to do it. Yeah, Dawn, that's the kind of thing. Like, they're waving it around. Okay, what the hell? I had nasopharyngeal test, lab say so. Then the end. Right. You have blood drawn for antibodies. Okay. Definitely hit me up, Sean. I want to talk to you more about that. Because, again, you may still see things like this. We're learning more as we go. There's always errors that can happen in labs and things like that. And again, like I said before, there could have been negative. It could have been a false net positive on your swab. There's been reports of contaminated swabs. I'd be curious what your symptoms were. I'm not dismissing you, Shonda. I'm trying to get to, this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of things we don't know yet. Okay? The best ability we can see right now is that we believe that the blood draw IgG antibody tests seems to be the most accurate thing we have. Okay? And again, there are some times, remember, this is a brand new disease we just started looking at. And if you look into research about how IgG works, there's four different subclasses. Some rise and fall at different times. There's quite possible, because we don't know yet, a time where our levels might fall to a point and we're not detecting them, or maybe we're only detecting certain subclasses, we're not checking them all. I don't know yet. I'll do a little more research into that, and that may be why you might get a false negative there. But again, there's pieces we just don't know yet. All right? We're learning as we go, but from what I can tell you, the best option right now seems to be this, to me. So if it were me, and it's going to be me because I'm going to get my blood drawn the next time he's here. I just have some poison ivy in my arm, so I didn't want a needle going right through all that. If it were me, and I want to know, I want the blood. I'm going to do the blood. I'm not going to do the finger prick because I want more specificity. Okay? If it's negative, it's negative. That's what it is for now. Again, I know I've been exposed. I know I've been around it. It's really more about prolonged exposure in close quarters for a long period of time with people. That's why it's more familial. That's why you see it more things where people are packed together, like on a cruise ship or on a plane or at an event like a church or whatever. Especially when you think about what people do in churches and they kiss everybody and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's why I'm scratching, Jeff. It's not some weird new corona symptom. I have some poison ivy, and that's why my face looks like this. I have it all over. It's not even that bad. I just get a little scratchy here and there at night as the histamines rise. So I have to take some D-hist and calm that down. But I'm a low reactor to poison ivy. I just got some patches in some different places. Anyway, not to get off the track here. So here's the thing. That's what I'm telling you about this stuff. All right? Now, I mentioned before, if you guys are picking up what I'm putting down, drop that 5 in the comments below. All right? Understand that there's never anything perfect in the world, never anything perfect in medicine. And here's what I tell people all the time. If anyone in medicine ever promises you anything beyond their best effort, run the other way. Okay? Because there's no guarantees. There's so many variables. Never, never, ever trust anyone who says, I promise you I'm going to do this. No, unless it's their best effort, all right, we'll do our best. All right? But with the data we have now, this seems to be the best way to know, was I exposed at some point? Yes or no? Do I have antibodies? Yes or no? And we go from there. Now, there's a narrative out there. Okay? And again, guys, spread the love if you think anyone else might benefit from this. There's a narrative out there that these mutations that we're finding. All right? There's a narrative out there that we don't really know if you get this disease, you're going to have permanent immunity. And here's the deal. They're trying, the point of that narrative is one thing and one thing only. Okay? Is there a possibility that both those things could be true? Yes. If you look at the possibility based on what diseases and viruses do in reality, it's this possible. Maybe this possible, depending, because this was probably a manufactured virus. But the fact remains, it's one thing and one thing only. A vaccine for all. Because if a lot of you have antibodies and you believe you have permanent immunity, would you go get a vaccine? And the answer is no, there's no reason to. All right? But if you tell people there are different strains, and you tell people that it may not have enough immunity because they got it, well now, no matter whether you have antibodies or not, you should get a vaccine. And if I can tell you that different strains come every year, I can give you a vaccine every year, just like the flu. There's a bigger narrative here, guys. Now, some of you may think vaccines are a panacea. We're not going to get into that. But the fact is, there's a narrative here to drive that as a source of treatment here. And now we're pushing into adult vaccines, mandatory vaccines for all. Bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture. Now I want to go over something with you because someone asked me a question earlier, a couple times today is, well, I heard that if you've had a flu shot recently, that you could have a false positive for this disease. No. So no, that's not true at all. All right? It's fake news. So I did my own research and looked into some other things. So the only thing I could even find close to anything about false positives with a coronavirus and a flu shot was from a study from 1984 that they did on coronavirus in cats. I'm going to tell you, not a valid way to look at something from 36 years ago compared to now. Then there's this chart they have from 2012 that's been all over Facebook and all these views and blah, 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 blah. The fact is, when you look at this chart, it's not being read properly. If you look at it properly, there's only one case of person that actually had coronavirus that happened to also have these flu shots, and they were actually trying to make the case that flu shot causes coronavirus, which is ridiculous. All right? There's been indications clinically, anecdotally, that people who had the flu shot seem to have a worse case. But flu shot does not cause coronavirus. And flu shot does not cause you to have IgG response. They're two different diseases. They work very differently. All right? Now, there are some coronaviruses with a similar transmission, different subclasses of coronavirus that have a similar transmission to how the flu virus goes. There's always a possibility there, but this is spike protein. This is not how flus transmit. Okay? Now, it was interesting when I was reading this one breakdown of the study, blah, 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 blah. Basically, they do mention a number of subtypes of coronavirus. NL63, HKU1, 229E, OC43. It's interesting because those 4 strains specifically that are listed here are 4 of the strains that can give a false positive on the finger prick test. Interesting that should show up in this article. All right, but basically, it was a crappy correlation that someone tried to make off of one chart from 2012 before this virus even existed. All right, this strain. So it's fake news, guys. There's really no way it would do that. At least there's no way that we know that the flu shot would cause you to have a false elevation of IgG antibodies for coronavirus, for this coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. All right? What is interesting to me, though, is that when you look at, we talk about how this virus works and permanent immunity, the way there are certain types of immune response that lend themselves more to permanent immunity than others. All right? So viruses that seem to have spike proteins, very likely to get a full lifelong immunity. Viruses that are capsular based, not necessarily. Well, what's interesting about this virus is guess how it works? Spike protein. Interesting. Interesting. Here we go. For example, activation of adaptive immunity by protein spike structures during an intracellular viral infection can activate lifelong immunity. Remember that. Activation of adaptive immunity by protein spike structures during an intracellular viral infection can activate lifelong immunity. Sorry, Dawn, you gotta start talking about it now. I'm getting itchier. So, when we adapt our immune system, that's what this is. When we get an infection, we have an adaptive response. We have a natural active immunity that does this. Okay, we adapt to the natural exposure. So, activation of adaptive immunity by protein spike structures. This has this protein spike structure. That's why it looks like, that's why they call it coronavirus, because it has looks like a crown with little spikes all over it. All right? Can activate lifelong immunity. So, even the research talks about any spike-based protein viruses causing lifelong immunity. And that's right out of an article talking about vaccines. So, and that was talking about the different types of immunity, and they were talking about natural immunity at that point, which is not an acquired immunity like we're talking about, artificial acquired immunity. Or artificial active immunity. All right? Natural immunity. Guys, there's really no reason why we should not have a lifelong immunity. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's imagine there was a world where you didn't. All right? So I postulated this last night. My nurse practitioner and I were sitting there talking about this. Like, what would be the reason why someone might not have an IgG response, even though we know they had the disease? We talk about a couple of reasons why they might have happened. Maybe there was a false net positive, maybe all those kinds of things. Well, here's why. Here's my thinking, and I'm going to dive a little bit more in this rabbit hole. This disease causes a pro-inflammatory cytokine storm. Okay? So, remember, we have pro and anti-inflammatory immune parts. We want both. We don't want too much of one, especially the pro-inflammatory one. Because what happens is, that'll drive that cytokine storm. All right? So what we're finding is we're pushing a little bit too much on the Th1 part of the immune system. Now, a lot of the ways we're treating this is we're going after knocking that down. So the question becomes, if for some reason we're not able to maintain an IgG-related permanent immunity, is there a possibility that the way we're treating this disease is stopping our bodies from having a proper IgG response? I don't know yet. But that's my thought process right now. I'm trying to think this through and working it out, guys. And I'll do a little more deep dive in the research. But this is one of the things that, if it starts turning out that we're getting these people who definitely had coronavirus, finding out with the IgG negative, so either one, if that's true science, it's either one of two reasons. Either there's a natural ebb and flow that we're catching someone on the downward part, or we're not registering the right subclasses, or I believe something's going on in the way we're treating it that's suppressing our body's ability to mount a full response, antibody-wise, that may be affecting it. I don't know. Just a postulation, just a theory. Because again, if we're having an overreaction of a pro-inflammatory cytokine storm, and we go after that with things like Z-Paks and things like that, are we possibly suppressing some immune response to have the right thing happen? Again, Jeff, that's my thought. Possibly happening. Okay? I'm trying to put some pieces together. Okay, say, listen, if there's a validity to people saying that their IgG levels are not showing up positive when they should, okay, why? Because when you look at how this virus works, there's no reason it shouldn't. So the question is there something else going on here that we're missing and that's interfering with our body's appropriate response? I don't know the answer yet. Okay? But I'm going to do a little more deep diving there and see what I can figure out. And one of the things I'll be looking at will be the Z-Pack. So, again, guys, we're way early. And there's going to be outliers for anything. Listen, every now and then in my life, I've come across some people who had chickenpox twice. Because every now and then, someone doesn't mount the proper response. We don't know. It's a new disease. But the best way to me to test anything right now would be a blood test, IgG test, through a reputable lab. I can't promise what it'll produce in the way of, in the long term, what we're going to see if there was not something different. But I can promise you that getting a flu shot's not going to give you a false positive. It's also not going to give you coronavirus. It may suppress your immune system, making you more susceptible to things, but that's different. All right? And I will tell you that these finger prick tests may not be as valid as we think they are. And again, remember there's a narrative here. Guys, the goal, when this is all said and done, whether you believe in them or not, is vaccines for all. And you want to start planting seeds now, regardless. That, maybe the antibodies aren't going to, maybe the IgG is not going to show up positive. Maybe you're not going to maintain it. Or there's going to be some mutant strain that we have to keep vaccinating every year for. Yeah, Shonda, that's a possibility right there too. There's other pieces. You're autoimmune, you're Th2 dominant, all right? There's a possibility that may have affected your IgGs. It may have affected your tests. There's some other things that may interfere with this that we have no idea about. All right? Brand new stuff. We've known about this disease for what? 5 months, 6 months? We've been throwing the freaking kitchen sink at it, not knowing what the hell we're doing, treating it like a grease fire in the kitchen and throwing water on it like a bunch of idiots. All right? With Tylenol and all the other garbage. All right? So there's a lot of things we don't know. And we learn more as we go. And if you've watched my videos, we pick up more and more information. And as much as I've done in the 80 plus hours of research I've done in the last 2 months on this virus, all right, it's like all I do, there's still new things to learn. Still new things that come out. Your remdesivir looks like the new thing. Go buy some Gilead stock. I mean, let's tell you. And again, I covered this a couple weeks ago. Am I following? Yeah, Doris. You know what, Jeff? I look at her when I can. But yeah, Doris Lowe, great information. She's a great jumping off point for me for a lot of my research. But I'll definitely take a look and see if you have a good one, new one that's for me to take a look at, to shoot me over. It's hard. I'm doing a lot between all that stuff and then working, full time and talking about red hundreds and running antibody tests and. There's a lot, guys. I haven't had any downtime. Not that I'm complaining. A lot of people would love that luxury. Would love not to have that luxury of downtime. So, all right. I hope you guys are well. I hope this made sense. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. If you think this is helpful for someone else, please spread the love. If you're coming in late, definitely go back and watch on replay. All right. And again, if you're local, we're in Long Island, New York, Comac. We're right in the middle of Long Island, basically. If you're local to us, we are doing the testing. We started today. We'll definitely have different days set up. It's really nice. It went pretty smoothly. I think we saw like 20 some odd people today. Which, for me, that's a big day for that kind of stuff. For the first time ever introducing it to you. My numbers are, people are starting trickling back into chiropractic a little bit more. Feel free to let us know. Reach out, and we'll help you out. And Shonda, I definitely want to talk to you a little bit more because I'm going to go down that rabbit hole, guys. I'm going to find out everything I can to figure out what could be an issue here. We're taking our own data, put together our own intake surveys to try to find anything that could be a factor. And lastly, guys, I did put a survey together. It would really be helpful to me if you know anyone or have friends, family, whatever that have had coronavirus. No matter their outcome, preferably better than worse, obviously, but you never know what happens, unfortunately. I have a survey to take a look and see what happened, what the symptoms were, what the progress was, how they were treated. So we can kind of start putting a better picture together. because there's certain things that will not be looked at by traditional medicine. So if you're interested in helping me out with that, just write the word survey in the comments below. It's completely anonymous, but I'll definitely send you the link, and you can maybe, get it out to some people. I would appreciate it. And thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. If y'all want to know what I'm drinking at all times to keep me going and focused and energetic and all those things, drop that red 100 in the comments below. Jen, let me know how you do. Yeah, we were just talking about, I was going to get back to you for your comment earlier in my post. I hadn't had a chance yet. So anyway, I love you all. Have a great night. If you found this valuable, please spread the love. Write the word value. Maybe drop some value-based emojis in the comments below. Stephanie, how are you? And we'll go from there. And as always, I am Dr. Ketone. I will see you guys all soon. Have a great night. Stay safe, stay well, and stay healthy.